Complete and utter decay is what comes to mind when watching this Los Angeles Rams offense. The offensive weapons are bad, the offensive line is worse, the team somehow went from Super Bowl to super, awful in just 7 months, and it's all been really bad. They've scored over 21 points just twice, they've scored under 21 points 9 times, everybody looks lost, everybody is injured, Cooper Kupp is injured, they can't run, throw, or block, and Sean McVay looks like his head is about to explode. Like many problems in the NFL, the issue isn't just one simple fix. They need a team of people to repair this nightmare of despair. But first, they need to identify the glaring issues, which is what we'll be doing today. We'll dive deeper on everything that's going wrong, but really quick, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. They are a fantasy football app that I'm extremely excited to work with since I've been using them anyway for the last several years. Their games that I've been playing the most recently is their pick'em games, where you select 2 to 5 players and bet their over-under stat for that game. You pick 5 and win, that is 20 times your entry in just one night. You can choose any game you want as long as it's on the slate. I'm a little worried about the King getting game scripted out against Philly. Also, Gino, you burned me before. I'm sorry, I'll write you back on the over. All you do is put in just these 5 picks, bet $15 or whatever you want, and if those hit, that is $300. As long as you choose any player in the slate, you can play whatever and whoever you want. It's easy, it's simple, you can win a lot of money. Use my promo code Rollins to get a match deposit of up to $100. So you put in $100, it instantly turns into $200. That's promo code Rollins. So, back to the struggle, the Rams' offensive issues can be grouped into 3 buckets: the run game, the offensive line, and then the lack of weapons outside. And starting with that first one, the run game has the second worst yards per carry at just a measly 3.5. Historically, we've seen Sean McVay's offense base out of the run game, with the entire offense centered around this devastating zone running scheme that slices and dices. But this unit is last in rushing first downs, third to last in 20-plus yard runs, and have the shortest, longest run at just 23 yards. With no explosiveness or consistency on the ground, their offense stalls out early in drives and puts all the pressure on the passing game. Without viable running threats, the Rams have even tried utilizing their receivers more in the run game, and here, despite the Cowboys messing up, Brandon Powell can't even stay upright. When McVay motions Cam Akers away and Leighton Vander Esch matches, Micah Parsons needs to bump over to fill the A gap since the weak safety is coming down into the B. But despite both Cowboys accidentally filling that B gap, Powell isn't able to hit the backside of this screwed up defense since he instead elects to eat turf. The Rams are a zone running team, with their secret sauce being to cut back across the defense even more than usual. Think of Todd Gurley going one way, then cutting all the way back. This is what the offense is based on, but the running backs, and especially the offensive line, which is our second bucket, have been completely inept. Obviously, they've been absolutely ravished by injuries, but every lineman on this roster practices their backside double team blocks throughout training camp, every week in practice, so they should be much better than they have been, but they aren't giving the running backs any room to work. Backside double teams, frontside double teams, despite having 2-on-1 advantages, the Rams can't create any movement. Oftentimes people point to scheme as the issue, but with the Rams, everything they run is sound. Even when McVay gives them schematic advantages, they still can't execute. To take tight end Tyler Higbee off Nick Bosa in the run game, they motion him across, which forces the D-line to bump over to account for the new gap to the right. Now right tackle Rob Havenstein is on Bosa, and the Rams still have a frontside combination block they need to execute, but despite having a 2-on-1, they can't generate any movement there, and can't generate backside movement with that double, so the play is blown up. These running and blocking problems set up our third bucket. The lack of weapons, and really the entire passing game on the whole, have heavily regressed since last year, where the Rams have gone from third in explosive passes of 20-plus yards to 31st. Stafford has been forced to throw about 2 yards shorter on average compared to last year because the line simply cannot block, so he has to constantly pass up deeper options knowing he won't have the time to hold the ball to hit receivers deep down the field. Their tackles and guards can't block anybody one-on-one. Defenses can just easily get into 50 fronts with 5 guys on the ball to force isolated matchups, then tee off. And without any sort of ability to protect, the Rams' downfield passing game has become almost non-existent, which is why they can't create explosive plays. Their lack of weapons has really affected the depth of their scheme more than anything, and completely hamstrung what they're used to being good at. Allen Robinson was given $46 million to be a dominant outside threat that can win one-on-ones consistently, so that defenses can't put all their attention on Cooper Kupp. But since he can't win those matchups anymore, Stafford doesn't trust him, so he barely targets him when he's in those alignments, so teams still focus all their attention on Kupp. With A-Rob not being a threat outside, and then philosophically what McVay does in terms of alignment, defenses aren't scared of anything on the perimeter, which condenses everything inside. The Rams often put a tight end or running back outside to trigger an indicator whether the defense is in man or zone. Based on which defensive position matches, tells Stafford what coverage they're likely playing, since you can't just put cornerbacks on everybody. So if you're matching in man coverage, it's going to be a safety on tight end, like we see here, instead of a cornerback. The problem with this play, and yes, Cooper Kupp being injured doesn't help, is there are just no real threats anywhere on the field despite the pass being completed. A-Rob is up top, but he's not a threat outside since he can't win one-on-one. The running back Darrell Henderson goes in motion to the flat. Not too worried about Darrell Henderson in the flat. Tyler Higbee is outside. I'm not worried about him beating me deep. And Ben Skowronek and Brandon Powell are the remaining 2 up the middle who are just not going to hurt me. A-Rob's route is dead. Henderson's is nothing. Higbee is running dagger, but isn't fast enough to get to the actual window. Stafford has to check down over the middle, and that's really what this entire offense has come to. The Cowboys know they can trick their pre-snap tell to deceive Stafford since they're not really worried about those outside guys beating him deep, especially Higbee. And so even though they show man, they drop into zone, really daring the Rams to beat them deep. They can't create explosive plays off those over-the-middle throws because that's where everybody on the defense is looking. And by putting the non-receivers outside to put more dynamic talent inside, the defense knows where you're gonna throw the ball. Here, they have the running back outside here, and the tight end to the bottom here, and with the Bucs in man coverage, they know if they flood those over-the-middle zones, there's nobody outside that can beat them. They rush 3, they drop 8, the Rams are running arches, which is one of their favorite concepts, but it doesn't work with 2 extra bodies in the area. The one place they have had success is under center play action, which has always been a McVay staple, but last year with Stafford they started to get away from it more and move more towards spread shotgun sets to maximize his talents, but now they're horrible at that. Under center, Stafford averages 8.3 yards per attempt, largely due to the play action, but in shotgun, it's just 6.1. Under center play action separates the defense more since it sucks up the linebackers who have to account for the run game. This creates more intermediate space between the safety and linebackers, which is perfect against this dig post that adjusts to attack coverage. With each receiver running swirl routes to hold the cornerbacks outside, Van Jefferson stems to the corner, then breaks across the safety's face. With all the space created by the play action, there's tons of room, but he drops it, so the Rams decide to run back a similar concept later in the game, but now from shotgun. From the gun, with no play action, Levante David can just sink back into Kupp's dig route, which covers it up, and Stafford takes a sack. Typically, this post safety doesn't nail down on the crosser when he's playing the deep middle, but knowing the Rams can't pass protect, he can cheat up a bit to take it. The best way to attack this coverage is to hold the ball, wait for the safety to react, then throw the post since the corner has outside leverage and you have all this space deep. But Stafford takes the snap, Vita Vea just absolutely annihilates the left guard Bobby Evans, and by the time Stafford hits the top of his drop, it's game over. Defenses know the Rams can't attack outside, they can't attack late in the down because of protection, and their shotgun series is absolutely putrid. Well, that just doesn't leave you with a lot of different ways to beat a defense, and so it makes it that much easier to prepare for them when you just have to practice against a few concepts and looks instead of all of them. I'm not going to pretend like every defense has a Fred Warner, but every team knows all of the Rams' current limitations and the only things they can do. They love dagger more than anybody, which is a clear out route paired with a dig route underneath it, So based on this coverage, Warner is supposed to carry the clear out, but he's just too prepared. Defenses know what they're going to get, they know the Rams are extremely limited, and that makes it that much harder on Los Angeles to score points and win games. This whole thing is really, really bad. They can't run the ball because their running backs can't execute and can't create on their own. They can't block anybody in the run game because their line is destroyed by injuries and has zero talent. They can't pass protect whatsoever, and their offense has a talent deficiency problem, which McVay has tried to scheme around, but that's honestly made things even worse because there are only like 3 things that they now actually can do. Stafford has repeatedly gotten the crap beat out of him and might not play again this year. Kupp is injured. This situation is dire at best and disastrous at worst. The positive, the Rams have Sean McVay. He took over a horrible Rams team in 2017 and turned them into what they've become the last several years. If anybody can turn this around, it's him, and if he's still in LA in 2023, well, he's proven he can work absolute miracles.